So about a week ago, I actually made a video telling you guys how Bethesda is suing the developers of Fallout Shelter. If you haven't watched that video, more or less, Fallout Shelter was developed by a third-party company that was hired by Bethesda, known as Behavior Interactive. After they kind of finished up their contract with Bethesda, they went on to make a game for Warner Bros. That was actually Westworld themed. If you look at the two games, they look really freaking similar, and Bethesda, claiming some stolen code and things like that, did begin to sue both the developers, Behavior Interactive, as well as Warner Bros. Themselves. At the time of recording that video, that story was like hot off the presses. Very few people had actually covered at that point. Most other news outlets didn't even have any articles on it. So the only real source available was TMZ, which didn't even refer to Bethesda by name. Well, needless to say, since then, a lot of people have covered it. We actually got an update from Bethesda, some clarification on what the suit is all about, and some direct quotes from the lawsuit. And in addition, Warner Bros. Response to these claims by Bethesda. So my source for a lot of this is the lawsuit itself, which is published, and also an IGN article where Warner Bros. Directly issued the response through IGN as an addendum to their article. I'll have that all linked below if you guys are interested, but moving on, to be more specific, Bethesda is suing Behavior Interactive, their once hired developer, for a breach of contract, while they're suing Warner Bros. For inducement of breach of contract. And I suppose in fairness, even that is quite vague. To get even a little bit more specific, both parties are being sued for their willful and intentional infringement of Bethesda's copyrights, misappropriation of Bethesda's trade secrets, and deceptive business practice and unfair competition through their development, marketing, and promotion of their Westworld mobile game. That being from the IGN article, but a direct quote from the lawsuit itself. And more or less, Bethesda is saying that even though as they were working with Behavior Interactive, they shared some code, maybe shared some different assets, and they intended for those to remain private between the two companies, so after Behavior's done with Bethesda, they can't just reuse those. Warner Bros. Saw the success of Fallout Shelter, which was very successful. I believe it was the most played Bethesda game ever. Warner Bros. Realizing that success, wanted to get their own game and chose their Westworld IP for it, hired that same developer, and tried to create something that was fairly similar to Fallout Shelter in order to capitalize on some of the similar success. Or at least that's what Bethesda's claiming. Whether or not you believe that is up to you. Although in my own opinion, the two games do look very similar, but that isn't technically illegal. And a direct quote from Bethesda is that the Westworld game is a blatant ripoff of Fallout Shelter. And then we get that fun response from Warner Bros. So this is just some really juicy and beautifully written words, so I'm actually going to read it word for word. It is a direct quote. Again, the only source for this is the IGN article, as Warner Bros. Sent them their response. As one of the world's leading creators of intellectual property, including the groundbreaking television series Westworld, Warner Bros. Has a deep respect for intellectual property rights. As such, the assertion by Bethesda Softworks that Warner's Westworld mobile game improperly used source code from Bethesda's Fallout Shelter are as surprising as they are unsubstantiated. Warner Bros. Has been assured by the game developer Behavior Interactive that Bethesda's allegations are untrue and that none of Bethesda's code was used in the Westworld game. Moreover, contrary to Bethesda's baseless accusation, Warner Bros. At no time induced Behavior to use the Fallout Shelter code in Westworld. If that's not lawyer talk, I don't know what is, because that was pretty interesting and fun to read. And it's pretty interesting to actually kind of dissect what they said exactly. They said, no, we're not doing what you said, and obviously because we have such successful and unique IPs, we would never infringe on somebody else's IP. But then went on to add, even if the company we hired did infringe on their contract, we didn't help them do it. That's on them. If you guys didn't watch the original video, apparently the way Bethesda actually realized they were reusing code is that this Westworld game had a lot of similar bugs that were seen in some of the earlier builds of Fallout Shelter. It's a pretty funny way to actually get this whole thing started. And I mean, yeah, that's largely it. There isn't much more to the story just yet. Bethesda hasn't given a response. I imagine it'll kind of go dark for a little while, then we'll probably see a settlement out of court. But who knows? Maybe this one will actually pan out and we'll get a ruling from a judge. I'd be interested to see how they side on this one. Because something that's important to remember is that even if the two games look very similar, that's not technically illegal. If they use totally unique code to mirror another game that was successful and none of that stuff was copyrighted or trademarked, Warner Bros. And Behavior Interactive didn't break any laws. If they did use some of that code and they had a contract saying that they can't reuse that code from Fallout Shelter, then you do have a much larger problem. But then comes the question as to whether or not Bethesda can actually prove that Warner Bros. Was complicit in this. Was it just Behavior Interactive reusing that code, or was Warner Bros. Like, oh yeah, that's okay, do that? It's nice to finally have some kind of lawyer or drama in the law spectrum and not be the one involved. Either way, it's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. I uploaded another video today, so if you guys want to check that out, you can click on the link on screen. But otherwise, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys all next time. Later.